The rain started out of nowhere, heavy and cold, taking everyone by surprise. Suli pressed her purse to her chest and ran for cover under the marquee of a closed store. She was soaking wet, and the cold wind made her body tremble. It was then that he saw something on the ground, a black leather wallet thrown near the curb. She looked around, looking for someone who seemed to have lost her, but no one paid attention. Carefully, he bent down and took his wallet. The leather was soft, and it looked expensive. His heart raced a little as he opened it. Inside, several hundred reais bills folded to perfection. Also, a black bank card and some documents. The name spelled was Berg Sinclair. Suli swallowed dry. The owner of that wallet, it seems, was someone rich. He had golden cards, ID, a business card, all very sophisticated. Probably he wouldn't even miss that money. But Suli, yes. She was behind on her rent, the bills were piling up, and the salary at the coffee shop where she worked was barely enough to survive. For a second, the idea crossed his mind. What if I took just a little bit? But she soon shook her head. That would not be right. He sighed and looked at the document again. The man in the photo had a serious look and striking features. He seemed important. Another thunder sounded in the distance, and Suli realized that she could not stay there forever. He put his wallet inside his purse and took a deep breath. She didn't know who Berg Sinclair was, but she knew she had to give it back, and that decision would change his life forever. On the other side of town, Berg Sinclair sat in his lavish office, with no idea that he had lost his wallet. The clock was almost 7 o'clock at night, and he was still swamped with work. The company he inherited from his father demanded much more than he imagined, and despite all the money and success, his life seemed empty. He no longer trusted anyone. Many people had approached him out of interest, and over the years, this made him cold and reserved. That's when his assistant rushed into the room. "Mr. Sinclair, the driver is waiting. Will you need something else before leaving?" Berg let out a tired sigh and ran his hand over his face. "No, I'm already going." He got up and took his jacket, but as he reached into his pocket, he felt a strange emptiness. He frowned and began to check the other pockets. Nothing. "Any problem, sir?" the assistant asked. Berg ignored the question and opened the desk drawer, quickly searching it. Then he looked over the table, on the sofa, and even on the floor. The wallet was not there. He never missed anything. Never. And that irritated him deeply. "Damn it," he mumbled, trying to remember where he could have left it. The restaurant? The parking lot? Or had someone stolen it? His expression turned dark. People tried to take advantage of it all the time, so it wouldn't be surprising if someone caught it. "Call the restaurant where I had lunch. See if I left my wallet there," he ordered the assistant. "Yes, sir." As he waited, Berg folded his arms and looked at the view of the city illuminated through the window. Maybe he should cancel his cards before it was too late. But then, the phone rang. "Mr. Sinclair, a woman called the front desk saying she found your wallet." Berg turned immediately, frowning. "Who?" "I don't know. She said she wanted to give it back." He was silent for a moment. Usually, the people who came to him had ulterior motives. But if this woman was trying to take advantage, she would have just kept the money and the cards, wouldn't she? Curious and suspicious at the same time, Berg took a deep breath and said, "Make an appointment for her to come tomorrow. I want to see who this woman is." And unknowingly, he had just taken the first step to change his life forever. The next morning, Sueli was standing at the front desk of Sinclair Enterprises, clutching her wallet tightly inside her purse. The building was immense, modern, with glass walls and a bright marble lobby. Well-dressed people hurried by, carrying briefcases and talking on cell phones. She felt out of place there. The receptionist, an elegant and serious woman, gave him a cold look behind her glasses. "Name?" "Suli. I'm here to return a wallet I found. Mr. Berg Sinclair asked me to come." The woman raised an eyebrow, sizing it up and down. "One moment." Suli watched as the receptionist picked up the phone and spoke quietly to someone. From the tone, it seemed that she didn't believe much in her story. A few minutes later, the woman looked at Suli and said in a dry tone, "Mr. Sinclair will receive you." The elevator in the background. 20th floor. Suli's heart beat faster. She did not expect to be received by him in person. I just wanted to leave my wallet and leave. Even hesitantly, she walked to the elevator. When the doors closed, she looked at her reflection in the mirror at the back. Her simple jeans, modest blouse, and slightly messy hair clashed with the sophisticated environment. The elevator stopped with a soft sound and the doors opened. Upstairs, an assistant guided her into a huge room. Huge windows revealed the view of the city, and an elegant table occupied the center of the room. Behind her, Berg Sinclair stood up. Sully held her breath for a moment. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an impeccable suit. His intense and serious gaze studied her attentively. "So, you were the one who found my wallet." His voice was firm but without aggressiveness. "Yes." She reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet, holding it out to him. "I was lying on the street yesterday near the center. I thought I should return it." Berg took the wallet without taking his eyes off it. He opened it and checked the contents. Everything was there. He closed his wallet slowly and crossed his arms. "You didn't take anything away." Sully frowned. "Of course not. I just wanted to give it back." His gaze narrowed slightly, as if trying to decipher her. "And why would you do that?" She blinked, surprised by the question. "Because it's the right thing." Berg was silent for a moment. He was used to people who always wanted something from him. But this woman didn't seem impressed with her office, her looks, or her wealth. Finally, he said, "Would you accept a coffee?" Sully hesitated. She did not expect this invitation. "Why?" A small smile appeared at the corner of his lips. "Because I'm curious." And at that moment, their fate began to change. Sully had no reaction for a few seconds. Berg Sinclair's invitation took her by surprise. Why did he want to talk to her? She just came to return the wallet and leave. I don't think I can stay long," he replied hesitantly. "It won't be long," he assured, indicating an armchair in front of the table. She took a deep breath and sat down. Soon, the assistant discreetly entered with 2 cups of steaming coffee. Berg took his unhurriedly, watching Sully. "So, Sully, what do you do?" She was surprised by the question, but answered, "I work in a coffee shop. Do you like what you do?" Sully gave a short smile. "I like it, but it is not easy." He realized that there was something in her words. "And why isn't it easy?" She looked at him, trying to understand why a man like him would care. "Because the salary is barely enough to pay the bills," he confessed. Berg was silent, as if analyzing every word. Sully shifted in her chair, feeling a little uncomfortable. "You could have kept the money in my wallet," he said bluntly. She frowned. "I've already said that I'm not that kind of person." And even though he needed to, he chose to do the right thing. "Yes," she said firmly, without hesitation. Berg gave a half smile. There was something rare about her. Genuine sincerity. "People like you are hard to find," Sully Ryu some humor. "I don't think I'm that special. I just did what anyone would do." "Your mistake. Most people would not have returned that wallet." She didn't know what to say. The way he looked at her made it seem like he saw something in her that she didn't even see herself. After a moment, Berg leaned forward and said something Sully never expected to hear. "What if I had a proposal for you?" She widened her eyes. "Proposal? What kind of proposal?" His smile increased slightly. "A job. Something that can change your life." Sully's heart raced. What was that man wanting? Sully's heart beat faster. A job? What exactly was Berg Sinclair proposing? She frowned, trying to understand. "A job?" she repeated suspiciously. "What kind of work?" Berg rested his elbows on the table and intertwined his fingers, looking at her with that intense gaze. "I need someone I can trust," he said directly, "and you've proven yourself to be that person." Sully blinked, surprised. "Just because I gave you your wallet back?" He smiled slightly. "You have no idea how many people around me only think about money." "When I saw that everything was exactly as I left it, I knew you were different." She was silent, not knowing if it was a compliment or a test. "And what would I have to do?" she asked, still cautious. "I want to hire you as my personal assistant." Sully almost laughed. "Assistant? But I don't know anything about this business world." Berg shook his head. I don't need someone with experience. I need someone with integrity. The rest you learn." She was baffled. It was a surreal opportunity, but why? "It sounds too good to be true," she murmured. Berg leaned a little forward. "Do you want to stay where you are? Earning little? Killing yourself to pay the bills? Or do you want to change your life?" His words hit hard. She wanted something better. But working for a man like him? A powerful millionaire? Accustomed to a world completely different from hers? I don't know," he admitted. He watched her for a moment, then picked up a card and slid it across the table to her. "Think about it. If you decide to accept, call me until tomorrow." Sully picked up the card slowly. His name and number were engraved there as if that piece of paper carried the chance of a new life. She stood up, still stunned. "Thank you. I'll think about it." Berg just nodded with a look that said he already knew the answer. As she left the office, Sully felt her heart racing. The question hammered in his mind. To accept or not? What would happen if I said yes? The way back home seemed longer than usual. Sully clutched Berg Sinclair's card between her fingers, as if that small piece of paper weighed tons. She still couldn't believe what had just happened. A millionaire, one of the most powerful men in town, offered him a job, an opportunity to change his life forever. But why? Why did he choose her? She had no experience. She knew nothing about that world of luxury and business. He could hire anyone, someone trained, someone who already knew how to deal with the intense pace of that company. And yet, he chose her. As she walked through the streets of the simple neighborhood where she lived, reality hit her hard. The rent was late, the bills were piling up, and her job at the coffee shop was barely enough to make ends meet. She was tired, exhausted from living on the edge, always counting every penny. However, accepting that proposal seemed daunting. What if it was a mistake? Sully entered the small apartment and threw her bag on the couch. The space was cramped, the furniture was old, and the walls bore the marks of time. She loved this place because it was her little refuge, but at the same time, she felt like she was trapped there. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked again at Berg's card. He took out his cell phone. He dialed the number, but stopped before pressing the call button. His chest rose and fell fast. I was about to make a decision that could change everything. "What if it goes wrong?" she whispered to herself. He took a deep breath. The phone was in his hand for several minutes. His finger trembled over the screen. Then, before he could convince himself otherwise, he pressed the button and brought the phone to his ear. Her heart raced when the call rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then his voice came from the other end of the line. "Berg Sinclair." Sully closed her eyes and took courage. "It's me, Sully." A brief silence. Then the answer came, firm and loaded with something she couldn't decipher. "I knew you'd call." Sully's heart was still pounding as she held the phone. Berg Sinclair seemed certain that she would accept. That made her uncomfortable, but at the same time intrigued. "So, does that mean you accept my proposal?" His voice was calm, assured. Sully took a deep breath. "Yes, but I still don't know if it was the best decision." She heard a faint laugh on the other end of the line. "Don't worry, Sully, you'll find out soon. Show up tomorrow at 8 in the morning. My assistant will give you all the instructions." And before she could say anything, he hung up. Sully stared at her phone for a few seconds. What had she just done? The next morning, Sully found herself again in front of the imposing Sinclair Enterprises. But this time, he wasn't just there to return a wallet. She took a deep breath before entering the building. She felt out of place in that luxurious environment, with well-dressed people hurrying by. She wore the best outfit she had, still simple but neat. The receptionist, the same as the day before, gave him a look of surprise but soon disguised it and signaled for him to accompany her to the elevator. When she reached the 20th floor, an elegant woman with glasses and hair tied in an impeccable bun was waiting for her. "You must be Sully." The woman smiled professionally. "My name is Linda. I'm Mr. Sinclair's senior assistant. I'll show you everything you need to know." Sully just nodded, trying to take it all in. Linda led her down a modern hallway, explaining the basic functions. She would have to organize Berg's schedule, answer a few emails, and handle simple tasks at first. "It's normal to feel overwhelmed in the first few days," Linda said, pausing in front of a spacious room. "But if Mr. Sinclair chose you, it means he trusts in your potential." Sully didn't know if this was comforting or scary. The door opened, and there was Berg, sitting at the table, looking directly at it. "Welcome to your first day, Sully." His gaze was intense, as if analyzing every detail of her. Sully swallowed. "Thank you. I hope I don't disappoint." Berg rested his elbows on the table, intertwining his fingers. "I know it won't." She didn't understand why those words seemed to carry a deeper meaning, but one thing was certain. That job would be much more than she imagined. Sully's first day was a whirlwind. Between memorizing schedules, answering emails, and dealing with people from high society, she felt like she was stepping into completely uncharted territory. But most disconcerting was the presence of Berg Sinclair. He was no ordinary boss. His gaze always seemed to be evaluating, but not in an intimidating way. There was something curious there, as if he tried to see beyond what she showed. In the afternoon, Linda directed her to take some documents to Berg. Sully took a deep breath before knocking on the door. "Come in." She opened it and found Berg standing, looking out the huge glass window. The office offered a spectacular view of the city. "Here are the documents you asked for." Berg turned and watched as she placed the papers on the table. "Are you enjoying the work?" Sully Hesso. "I'm still trying to adapt. Everything here is very different from what I'm used to." He smiled slightly. "And what do you think of me?" The question took Sully by surprise. "What? You seem wary of me," Berg said, crossing her arms. "That's good. It means that she is not naive." Sully looked away. "I think I'm just trying to understand why I'm here." "Because I wanted it that way," Berg replied without hesitation. She frowned. "But why?" The silence extended, so he walked over to her desk, picked up a sheet of paper, and handed it to her. "I want you to arrange this for me." She took the roll, expecting to see something complicated, but she was confused to notice that they were handwritten notes. Is it your handwriting?" she asked, surprised. Berg nodded. "I don't like to type. I prefer to write." She smiled a little. "Funny. I thought a powerful man like you would like technology." He tilted his head. "And I thought a woman like you would have run away from this job by now." Sully bit her lip. "I'm still considering." Berg axed bass. "Let's see how far your resistance goes then." She left the office feeling something different. Maybe this job wasn't just about work, perhaps, or about discovering something more about herself. The days passed, and Sully got used to the routine at Sinclair Enterprises. At first, she thought she would never fit into that world of luxury and formality, but little by little, she began to understand how things worked. The most intriguing was Berg Sinclair. He wasn't just a demanding boss. He was attentive, observant, and as much as he tried to appear cold, he sometimes let out a more human side, and it started to affect her. The lingering looks, the conversations that went beyond work, the moments of silence loaded with a meaning that Sully could not define. She was attracted to him, and that scared her. One night, late in the afternoon, Sully was still in the office organizing some documents. Most of the employees had already left. That's when Berg's voice surprised her. "Still here?" She looked at the door and saw him leaning against the door frame, his shirt sleeves rolled up, looking more relaxed than usual. "Just finishing this." "I didn't want to leave it for tomorrow." He got in and stood next to her, looking at the scattered papers. "You're dedicated." She smiled. "I think I like what I do." Berg stared at her for a moment, then picked up one of the papers and scribbled something on it. She frowned. "What are you writing?" He turned the paper over and showed it. It was an address. "Come with me." Sully blinked. "Now?" "Yes." She hesitated. "Berg, He interrupted her with a corner smile. "Just trust me." Sully felt her heart race. Something inside her said that night would change everything. Minutes later, they were in Berg's car, driving through the city's illuminated streets. The silence between them was not uncomfortable, but it carried a different tension. Soon they arrived at a place Sueli didn't expect, a cozy little coffee shop, far from the luxury of the expensive restaurants he frequented. She looked at him, surprised. "Are you coming here?" "Whenever I want a moment of peace." They entered, and Berg chose a table in the corner where the lighting was soft. "What do you want?" he asked. "A cappuccino is great," he ordered, and as they waited, Berg leaned his elbows on the table and looked at her differently. "I want to get to know you better, Sueli." She felt her face heat up. "We've been working together for weeks. Working with someone is not the same as really knowing them." She bit her lip hesitantly. "And what do you want to know?" "Everything," he replied, without looking away. Sueli felt butterflies in her stomach. This was no longer a simple meeting between boss and assistant. There was something there, something new, something she didn't know if she was ready to accept. But deep down, I already knew the answer. He was falling in love with Berg Sinclair, and from the way he looked at her, maybe he felt the same. That night, sitting in the cafeteria, Berg and Sueli talked like never before. No formality, no barriers, just two souls discovering each other. He talked about his lonely childhood, about how he always needed to prove his worth. Sueli, in turn, told about her struggles, about the constant fear of not being able to pay the bills, about the dream of one day having something of her own. And between smiles, looks, and small silences full of meaning, the two realized the inevitable. They were connected in a way that not even fate could explain. "I don't think I should be here," Sueli murmured, fiddling with the rim of the cup. Berg tilted his head. "Why?" she sighed. "Because you're my boss. Because your life is completely different from mine. Because that doesn't make sense." Berg smiled slightly. "And since when does love make sense?" Sueli's heart jumped. He had said that so naturally. She looked away, feeling the emotions mingle inside her. "You don't know me well, Berg." He touched his hand to the table, firmly but delicately. "I know enough. I know you have a strong heart, that you don't get carried away easily, that you don't get impressed with money. I know you challenge me, and that, since the day you gave me back that wallet, I couldn't get you out of my mind." Sueli felt her face blush. "Berg, just give me a chance?" His look was intense, true. He was not a man used to hearing no, but with it, he didn't try to command. He didn't try to demand. He just asked. Sueli took a deep breath. She could run away, protect herself from that unknown feeling. But at that moment, he realized that he no longer wanted to run away. Then, with a shy smile, she intertwined her fingers with his. "Okay, one chance." The smile Berg gave in response made her heart race, but he didn't just smile. Gently, Berg stood up, skirting the table until he was in front of her. Sueli looked up at him, feeling her breathing quicken. It was as if time had stopped. He brought his hand up to her face, sliding his thumb gently across her warm skin. "I'm going to kiss you now," he whispered. Sueli did not move away. He didn't want to move away. And then, slowly, Berg leaned over and kissed her. The touch of the lips was soft at first, but soon deepened, intense, hot, loaded with everything they hadn't said in words. It was a kiss that confessed desires, broke barriers, and sealed a promise. Sueli surrendered, letting her arms wrap around his neck, feeling the strength and warmth of his body. The kiss was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It wasn't just a touch of lips. It was a start. As they walked away, Berg's eyes lit up. "I've waited a long time for this," he said, his voice hoarse. Sueli smiled, still out of breath. "Me too," without even knowing it. In that instant, they knew that their lives would never be the same. And, in an unexpected way, fate had already decided for them. Sometimes life surprises us at the most unexpected moments. Who knew that a simple act of honesty would lead Sueli down a path that would change her life forever? That this man, who seemed so far removed from his reality, would become someone who would touch his heart in such an intense way. But will this love resist differences? What does the future hold for Sueli and Berg? Fate has joined their paths, but will the world accept this union? If you love this story, please leave your like so we can keep bringing you more exciting stories like this. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content and share it with that special someone who loves a romance full of twists and turns. And now we want to know, what did you think of this ending? Do you believe in the power of fate? Comment below and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to meet you, and don't leave yet. On the screen, the link to the next video is appearing, with another exciting story that you can't miss. Click now and keep getting excited with us.